Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Michigan offense probably hit a new low Saturday afternoon against Indiana. As Michigan fans ourselves, like we purposely waited to do this Sunday morning, one, so we could rewatch the football game. But number two, like if we got on yesterday night after this game, it would have been bad. It's probably still going to be a little bit ranty this morning as well. This Michigan offense, something has to change. And look, you look at Sherrone Moore, year one as a head coach. Part of being a head coach is making difficult decisions. And I don't love to like stand on the table and just call for people's jobs. And we've been pretty patient with this Michigan offense throughout the 2024 year, but it's becoming so evident that it needs to change. I mean, 206 total yards in this football game, averaging 3 yards per play. It reached a new low Saturday afternoon against Indiana. And my biggest frustration is I get quarterback play. It's bad. It's the worst that we see at the Power 4 level. If you were to ask Sherrone Moore, Kirk Campbell, what's the identity of this Michigan offense? I don't think Kirk Campbell could give you an answer. I mean, he's just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, hoping something sticks. He's using Alex Orji in the most head-scratching ways possible. There is nothing about this Michigan offense that gives you any sort of confidence. I think that's where you start, Dill. Let's get into what we saw from this Michigan offense. To the Michigan fans, look, the amount of support y'all have shown the boys has been amazing, even though this has been such a frustrating football team to talk about. So appreciate y'all. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Don't really care if you're subscribed. More importantly, let it fly in the comment section in terms of where to go with the offensive coordinator role. I think we're going to be talking about offensive coordinator candidates relatively soon here, Dale. Would love for Michigan to start getting the ball, the Michigan fans to start getting the ball rolling a little bit in the comment section. Appreciate you guys, Dill. I'll kick it to you. The Michigan defense played the tails off. Young talent was standing out, and we're going to get there to end on a little bit of a positive note. We got to start with you can't bury the lead here. This Michigan offense continues to be a disaster. Where do you want to start?
I mean, to be quite frank, if Kirk Campbell's not, I'd be okay firing him tomorrow. Like, I think there's nothing left for him to do.
Yeah,
You see almost like a regression in like the quarterback play. It almost like it's getting like worse. Like you had some bright spots in the Oregon game, some bright spots in the Michigan State game, and then you come out put this type of performance on. I mean, it was beyond pathetic. The defense played so well. Like that should have been a game where if you even get like slightly below average quarterback play, you
you
probably
win.
win it by a touchdown plus. So to get that out of the quarterback, it's just beyond pathetic. And I mean, you said it. Like, there's got to be a new change. There's got to be a change. And frankly, like, I think it should happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm kind of with you for a couple of different reasons. Again, I hate getting up here and just yelling to fire everybody. Dylan, it's going to impact the recruiting trail. Like if you enter the transfer portal time, or you're entering the last month until signing day, and you have guys like Andrew Marsh and Andrew Olish who are committed to play for Michigan, looking at this offense, saying I wouldn't blame those kids for saying I'm having second thoughts about committing to a program that this offense looks like it just is clueless out there. And so I think a change should happen sooner rather than later. And I think Michigan should be reaching into their pockets like they will in the NIL department in the transfer portal, which we fully expect. But go get an elite offensive coordinator, go get an elite play caller. We'll get into that conversation a little bit more as the season goes on and as we get into the offseason. Like, I think inevitably we're going to have the conversation of who should be the next offensive coordinator at Michigan. We'll get there a little bit later. My biggest frustration, the unit on offense that we had the most confidence in heading into 2024 was the offensive line. And yeah, I get we lost. I mean, legit a whole NFL offensive line. We lost it to the NFL draft. We had to replace all of those guys. We knew there'd be some growing pains, and there were certainly growing pains over the first couple of weeks. We are 10 games into the season, in this offensive line, just like you said about the quarterback play, seemingly not getting any better, arguably getting worse. Still, we dropped back 30 times in this football game, allowed 20 quarterback pressures. I mean, Davis Warren, not excusing Davis Warren's play, but Davis Warren was getting pressured on over 50% of his dropbacks. It's not like
No,
Indiana was
his
sending that.
pocket management, we talk about
It's not
quarterback
good.
development, is pathetic. I mean,
Bad.
he runs backwards. That's kind of his answer to this. The ball snapped, he just starts backing up and
Fades
backing
away.
up, and that doesn't give any help for your offensive line. But I think you're right. I wouldn't mind seeing a couple changes made. I mean, you got a lot of old guys on this unit. Hinton, well, Hinton's probably playing pretty well, although not particularly great.
Didn't play
But
good
you look
yesterday.
at that interior, like I'm okay making some changes there. El Hadi has just not played good enough football for this team. I don't think Preeb's playing good enough. And frankly, I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of Jake Ornera, a guy like Nathan Aphobia, like guys who we saw in the spring game play really good football. I wouldn't mind seeing them some get their shot. I wouldn't mind seeing
Yeah.
Andrew Sprague get a shot, like because right now nobody's really playing good enough, arguably besides Miles Hinton.
Look, as a Michigan fan, that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, give us something. And we talked about this with Jaden Davis a couple of weeks ago. Like, look, we know we're a 500 team at best. You know what I mean? Let's see what we have with some of the young talent. What do you have to lose at this point? I think the rest of the 2024 season for Michigan should be predicated on figuring out the moves you need to make and getting ready for 2025. I'm a Michigan fan. I don't give a damn if we play in the Little Caesars Bowl. I just don't. I'd rather know what we have going into 2025. The Standard's not making a bowl game. The Standard's making a college football playoff, winning Big Ten and national championships. That's clearly not going to happen. What do
And
we need to do
frankly,
to try to?
if you didn't have like some slight inklings of promise from some of these young offensive linemen, again, who I thought looked good in that spring game, like I go back and watch it, like man, those interior guys played really good football, especially Guinera and obviously Aphobia. So I look like again, you're just not getting anything from these veterans. Like I think that's what we were all hoping. Like, oh, they were going to come in, they were going to be ready. They had 3-4 years to develop. They're just not good enough right now. I'm very okay with again making some of those changes, and because it's like it's not going to get like worse. I don't think like there's anywhere to go on the offense side of the ball. It's so bad in pretty much every department aside from Colson Loveland at this point. You know, I don't just see what you got.
Well, that's another problem. You talk about Kirk Campbell and talk about the schematics. Like nobody's getting open. Like I know we don't have elite pass catchers on the outside. I thought Tyler Morris actually played some pretty good football last night. But like even when Davis Warren's able to get out some trouble and extend plays and give these wide receivers more time to create separation, like there's just no space getting created. You talk about getting critical of Kirk Campbell. Dill, Michigan had 57 yards after the catch all game last night. Like there's just no space getting created for this Michigan offense. Davis Warren on the year's only completed 6 passes that have gone 20 plus yards down the field. They showed a graphic last night that said Indiana has more 40-yard touchdowns than Michigan has 40-yard completions, which is a goose egg, I remind Michigan fans. A goose egg. We haven't completed a pass that's gone for over 40 yards all season. So, yeah, it's a kind of combination of, I get quarterback play is not good. The offensive line is not even close to what it needs to be. But the offensive play calling in terms of getting creative and trying to hit explosive plays and putting your guys in positions to be successful, it's just a straight up disaster.
Look, there's frankly worse offensive lines than Michigan. I like Michigan's offensive line's not playing well, but there's worse units and there's teams that can move the ball and have some method to kind of deal with that problem. It's like again, they don't move them out of the pocket. There's just no answer to slowing defensive lines down. And again, I think some of the issues the offensive line has is the lack of creativity. There's just nothing that puts any stress on defensive linemen or linebackers or the blitz. Like there's nothing that's putting any stress on anyone. Everyone can play really aggressive against Michigan. So I'm not like, again, like, yeah, do I think the offensive line's playing good? Definitely not. But I think a lot of it all falls on Kirk Campbell because he's just beyond inept at his job, it feels like at this point.
Hey man, we get pretty creative when we run Alex Orji into the Wildcat. No,
That's so
the DA.
stupid how they
I
do
know
that.
the sarcasm went right over your head there. I was making a joke where it's like, oh, they'll never know Alex Orji is going to run the football. You missed. The tempers are flaring for the boys. I don't necessarily blame you. Let's get to the defense real quick. 246 total yards allowed.
Apologize to Wink Martindale. You've been hating on Wink Martindale all season.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of Michigan fans in your position. I've been on the wall for him. I'm defending him like, oh, just look at that offense. They never have the ball. They're on the field the whole time, and there's been some injuries. Wink Martindale put on a show.
Michigan was doing that. Defense did everything they could to help the offense. And Zeke Berry gets a pick. It's inside the 5, inside the 10. You go 3 and out, kick field goal. Like that Michigan defense, and what? And you're right. Maybe I have been hard on Wink Martindale. It's really hard to evaluate this defense when you're playing opposite an offense that just can't stay on the football field, is turning the football over. Like at some point when you're playing 4 quarters of a football game and you're just not getting any help from the offensive side of the football, the dam's going to break. And we've seen that from this Michigan defense at times. So I maybe have been hard on Wink Martindale. I'll say this: Lamar Morgan is doing a damn good job with some of these young defensive backs. Zeke Berry has no business playing boundary cornerback. He's doing it at an elite level. You take a look at the defensive line, Cam Brandt. TJ Guy has stepped up. I know he's been within this Michigan program. He looks to be a really good football player. This defense, and Dill, I'm kind of interested to see like how much of this defense comes back. Like I know Will Johnson's gone. I know Kenny Grant's gone. I know Mason Graham's gone. Josiah Stewart and probably Derek Moore. Derek Moore maybe a little bit more on the fringe. We're going to lose some really good players, 4 of which I think will go in the first round of the NFL draft. Jay Sean Barr might stay, and he's starting to play some better football. You have a guy like Cam Brandt who's coming up playing some really good football. You said Trey Pierce on the inside is playing some good ball. Look, I think this defense is going to be just fine, and they're going to be even better in 2025 if we can figure out this offense. But, man, if there was a positive takeaway, that's an Indiana offense that has scored 40 points in, I believe, 7 of their football games. That second half performance from Michigan's defense reminded me of what that 2023 defense looked like.
Yeah, and that's why I've been kind of defending. Like, again, I think this defense is gonna. I still think it's a really good unit. I just think they get put in terrible positions. But you kind of said it. I mean, there's some guys who Zeke Berry, I don't think's had a particularly great game against that Oregon team. I mean, he certainly struggled a lot. He was getting picked on a little bit. Comes back, bounces back, has a huge game, and that's a really good team, as you kind of pointed out, in a really good offense. And then you got guys like Brandon Hillman. I love the way he plays. I mean, a lot of energy, a lot of fire. Cracks guys. He's really fun to
I'd
watch.
like to see him play a little bit over Makari Page in the back half. Makari Page missed 6% of his tackles last year, which was an extremely low number. He was awesome for Michigan. This year's missed over 20%. He's just missed so many tackles, and I think Brandon Hillman is giving us a little bit of life in the back end for this Michigan defense. Again, the Michigan defense, it's never been like that big of a concern. It's on the offensive side of the football. Dill, probably earlier this week, and we might even get news. Like I would not be surprised if Monday morning, Michigan's making a change at OC. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I would like to happen sooner rather than later. We'll see. I think we all know we're going to be talking about offensive coordinator candidates over the next couple of weeks. Michigan fans.
If one thing good's going to come out of this quarterback play, it's going to heighten the awareness, if you will, around this program about recruiting top talent at the quarterback spot. Yeah. Obviously, they're trying to remedy that, making a hard push at Bryce Underwood. But you look at the last 3 years, they just haven't recruited a guy since J.J. McCarthy, and now we're kind of bearing the consequences of that. I mean, this is pathetic what they have in that.
Hey, it's worth noting we should have started this at the top of the show. Ellis, you got booed off the field last night with Bryce Underwood in attendance. Rainy, cold. It's good news for Michigan. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.